Almost every leader we work with at every level of organizations wants to be able to influence others effectively. And what that means is they want to be able to pitch an idea, they want to be able to say something, they want to be able to get agreement, to get traction, to get resources for their ideas, for their recommendations, for the projects that they're responsible for. Where people often feel like they have the most influence is with their direct reports, because people get to tell their direct reports what to do. That's why you're a director or a manager or a VP. You direct the activities of others. When it comes to influencing your peers, when it comes to influencing your manager, this is where a lot of leaders say, I'm not sure how to do that, or I want to do that more effectively. So what we're going to talk about today is what to say, what not to say, and how to say things, and how to frame this for yourself or for the other person so that you'll be far more effective when you're presenting ideas or asking for others to fall in with what you're recommending. So the very first thing to identify is, what do I want this person to do? And sometimes when we talk with leaders, they'll say something like, oh, well, I just want them to be aware. I want them to know what's going on. What I'm going to tell you is that's grossly insufficient. That's not enough. If you think about what you actually want, you probably want them to not just be aware, you probably want them to be aware so that they can advocate. You want them to be aware so that they can inform. You want them to be aware so that they themselves can influence a decision and weigh in for one path versus another path. Oftentimes, getting past aware, if you think, what do I want this person to do? You may know, gosh, I want them to, right away, to approve this, to direct others to participate or support a particular project or idea. Great. The more clear you are on this, the better you're going to be able to craft your conversation and get clear for yourself first and foremost. When I used to sell software for 17 years, and whenever I would meet with customers, the number one thing I had in my head is, what do I want this person to do when they leave this room? When they walk out of that door, how do I want them to think differently? How do I want them to act differently? And what do I want them to have on the front of their mind to go do? And it might be buy a piece of software. It might also be, and more often than not, it wasn't buying software. It was, I want them to influence this other person to standardize how they're going to approach data. I want them to do this other thing that's going to support the business and then make that software more usable. So getting clear on the do, number one thing. This is actually the fourth step. That's the fourth step. So we're going to back up the bus from here because now we know where we're going. Now we get to decide how we're going to get there. Okay, so now that we know where we're going, the first step is deciding what's the bare essentials to understand. So what do I want this person to know to be able to go do this thing? And this is where you want to be able to explain this in a context that they're going to get. So if you're talking about something very technical and you're working to influence somebody who's not technical, you want to come up with a framework or a way to help them understand how this accomplishes something that they care about. That last bit, something that they care about, that is one of the most important things in the world for you to remember. You want to give them something that they can relate to or something that they are personally responsible for. So if you have a process or a path or a program that's going to meet someone else's annual objectives or annual goals, make sure to bring that up. Hey, you're responsible for this. This actually supports that. You have this as a part of your metrics or KPIs for the year. Fantastic. This is how these pieces work together. So now you're not assuming, because in your head you may see it as crystal clear. You know this. The key is you want this other person to know it so that they go and do exactly what you want. So two of the things that you can do to really help with this part are leave out, so subtract any technical jargon. This is where sometimes people they'll be comfortable in their own language around their project and they're talking to this other person who isn't, and they can create a lot of confusion. So leave out the technical jargon, leave out the buzzwords or the lingo or the stuff that you may be comfortable with and this other person may not. This isn't the time to be the smartest guy in the room. This is the time for you to lay it out in crystal clear terms so that that person feels comfortable, that person gets it, and then they're more likely to do what you want. The second thing to do is to ask questions. So this may be where you start to ask things like, hey, this seems like this lines up for you. What do you see? How important is this particular thing for you right now? What changes have you made to this part of the process or this aspect of your responsibilities? Now you're getting a better understanding. So again, as you prepared for this, and there are things that you think to yourself, I want this person to know this stuff, there are things that are probably important for you to know too. And when you show up asking questions, you're going to demonstrate to that person that you're not a know-it-all. You're coming in really saying, hey, this is what I know, and these are definitely some things that I don't know, or these are some details that you can update me on. So now you're showing up in a really strong way to partner with that person and help build success. Okay, now we get to focus on the next step. This is what I want to help this person know. This is the information I want to make sure I share with them or I ask them about. Here's the next thing that a lot of people skip, which is, what can I intentionally leave out? And this may be just for you to know, and there are going to be parts in here for you to share. So what's an important thing to leave out? Number one, the entire story. A lot of times people will want to start at the beginning. And if you go back far enough, your story could start with, so there was a swirling cloud gas in the galaxy. That's too far. And you're probably laughing going, yeah, that's too far. You sound ridiculous, and I know. The point though is a lot of times people will go back and they'll want to cover the entire story when that simply isn't necessary. It also is going to bore the crap out of the person that you want to do something. And if you're boring that person, or if they're thinking, golly, this person can't get to the point, you're losing credibility and your likelihood of influencing them is going to drop. So don't go for everything. Don't bring up the whole story. Because you're not bringing up the whole story, what you also want to do is you want to say, this is the short version. So now you are saying out loud, hey, there's a lot of details that I am intentionally leaving out. I'm giving you the highlights. Here's what's so powerful about that. For you, it's probably obvious as can be. For them or for other people in the room, though, it may not be obvious. So when you say, I'm leaving out details on purpose, I'm shortening the story up to make sure that we can have a brief discussion and get to the important steps. You may also say, I am sharing this short story and I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to go into specific details where it makes sense. So now you're showing that you're willing to answer their questions when they have them. You're also not just vomiting a bunch of information, getting way too much detail out there and really gumming up the whole process of making a decision. So that's a really key piece to emphasize, and we'll make sure that you're hearing that, because this is where a lot of people will get themselves sideways. Okay, the third step is, what does this mean for the business? I am doing a poor job of leaving myself enough space in here. So what does this mean for the business? What does this mean for this other person? So now I know what I want them to do. I've been clear about what I want to inform them of, make sure that they know about. I know what I'm leaving out, and I'm doing so intentionally. I'm going to describe that in the discussion. Now it's important to get clear on, what does this mean to them? How does this matter for their success? One of the easiest ways to help influence somebody is to help them see how the project you're working on is also important to them. That initiative you're advancing also meets some of their goals. So you may do some of this here lightly. This is where the part of the discussion is where you really want to bring that home. You want to ask some questions to understand, inform them of what's happening, get some more information so you're clearer, and then you want to drive this home. This has got to pass the so what test. So if you don't have a good response to someone else saying, all right, you've told me about this, so what? You don't have a good response to the so what, that's an indicator for you, you're not ready for, or you don't have the information for this step, or you haven't put it together in a way where you're going to be really compelling. Here's the thing that matters about this. This isn't about data. This isn't about this is going to help you sell X number of units of whatever, dishwashers or whatever it is. What you want somebody to focus on here, and you want to help them get there, is how they feel. Because people are going to make decisions, people are going to do things based off of how they feel. This has been proven, certainly not by me, by people way smarter than me. An economist named Daniel Kahneman actually won a Nobel Prize that focused on, and his research focused on how we as humans make decisions not off of cold hard logic, not off of our rational thought. We make emotional decisions, and then we backfill that emotional decisions with all kinds of great logic and reasons and good justifications for that. The smartest people among us do that same process. They just do it even faster, or they build even better responses behind that emotional decision. Again, not my research. That's a Nobel laureate's research. So here's the thing to know. If you want them to make a decision and you get to the so what, and you get to the this is how you're going to feel, you're much more likely to get that person to do what you want. The feeling you want them to probably focus on is something like, I'm not worried. I'm confident in this. I am overjoyed at the success. I am relieved that this thing that is a problem has gone away. The number one thing that motivates people, number one thing, is the elimination of an immediate problem. That's what we focus on. So an immediate threat or immediate problem is the number one thing we focus on. So if you want to help somebody move in a direction, you can help them feel relief about that problem going away. The second thing that people get focused on is immediate reward. So if you're thinking, oh, they're going to be happy about this, I would encourage you to say, how could you look at that from a different perspective? How could you shift that into language that helps that person think about, where is this a threat? Where could this be a problem? And how does your plan get rid of that threat, get rid of that problem for them? Because we are 8 to 10 times more likely, depending on whose research you look at, to focus on elimination of an immediate threat or problem versus acceptance or receiving of an immediate reward. So play with those ideas, and you'll know in different situations how to do that. So I hope this 4-step process helps you feel more confident and comfortable in how you're going to influence people. This is something that can work both at home. This is something that can work at business. And it's not trickery. It's not Jedi mind tricking anybody. You're just getting crystal clear on what do I want them to do? And then what do I want them to know? What do I intentionally leaving out of this process? That's mostly for your own benefit and also for theirs to a degree, so you can say, I'm giving you the short version. And then you're going to help them recognize how important this is. You're going to help them recognize how they feel, how they want to feel, and how your idea, your project, your recommendation is going to move that way. I hope this video was really helpful for you. If it was, please hit the like button. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel here on this page. Also, if you want to get videos like this and our written content sent directly to your inbox every week, you can go to wingspanperformance.com and you can sign up for our weekly newsletter. It's full of fantastic videos and blogs just like this, and a lot of people have found it to be really, really beneficial. Hope you have a great rest of the day. Please leave comments on how you're using this or perhaps what other tools you have found are helpful as you work to influence others. Thanks.